All right, good morning, guys. Today we're going to start talking about the rugged individualist and what that means. So this was an idea that it was a person's responsibility to help themselves. So I'm going to section off that sentence here, and this should definitely go into your notes. So again, a rugged individualist is the idea that a person has a responsibility to help themselves. If they are down on their luck, it is their responsibility to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. And they are to make something of their lives. It is their responsibility, no one else's. So, for example, if you were to lose your job, it is your responsibility to go out into the workplace and find what jobs are available and find a new job. No one else is going to find that job for you. It is your responsibility and yours alone. There would be no government safety net, no welfare. And this philosophy essentially instilled and reinforced the hard work ethic. So this reinforces hard work in our nation. Let's take a look at the next slide. Industrialization. Essentially, industrialization occurs when an economic system decreases its reliance upon producing goods by hand. So what does that mean? Essentially, industrialization means that we see an increase in a nation's reliance upon producing goods by machine. And it is essential that we start to move from being craftsmen and artisans with one specific job. For example, shoeing horses. Okay? When you think of shoeing a horse, you think of one person that does it at a time. They create the horseshoe and they put it on the horse. However, when we think of industrialization, we think of how many people or machines might it take to create that same horseshoe. So we increase our reliance upon producing these goods by machine. As you all know, most of the goods that you have today are produced solely by machines, with some human influence at times, whether it be cars, clothing, iPods, cell phones. Most goods that we have, including food products, are now produced by machines. When you think of a food product that could be produced by a machine, think of those wonderful bags of salad. The salad is pre-placed into the bag by a machine, and the bag is sealed by a machine. You think of packages of crackers, which are placed into a plastic sleeve and then sealed. Loaves of bread, which are cut by machines, baked by machines, and placed into plastic wrapping by, yet again, machines. Your daily life would be drastically different without machines in the United States. So let's take a look at some industries. Industries tend to arise when there are huge markets of capital and labor. Capital is a good, and labor is a service. So when we think of a good or capital, we think of things such as sugar, clothing, shoes, those types of items that you tend to buy. And when we think of labor, we think of a service, such as going to get your hair cut, going to get your oil changed. Those are services that are conducted by labor. And when you combine the two, capital and labor, to lower those production costs and raise a worker's output, Subsequently, we create larger amounts of consumer goods. So, for example, if we want to produce something like Call of Duty, we need to essentially have the game itself, which is our capital, and the workers, which are the labor, to assist in assembling said product. So the video game is placed in the package by a machine, but ultimately the worker on the assembly line is responsible for one piece, whether it be ensuring that the package is properly sealed or that the video game has made it properly within the game holder. Having industries combined with capital and labor are essential in today's market. And again, we see this throughout our nation, whether again it be the assembly of motor vehicles, clothes, food, or electronics. Human labor plays some role within the production of that item. Let's take a look at the next slide. Causes of rapid industrialization. Each of these causes are extremely important, and we want to make sure that we get all 7 down into our notes. So let's review. Again, we should title this section Causes of Rapid Industrialization. The first cause is an improved transition and communication. Improved transportation and communication. So number 1 here talks about improved transportation and communication. So what does that mean? How have we improved our transportation in this century? Well, we've done so through things such as railroads. We've improved communication through things such as the telegraph. Think of that photo of Manifest Destiny that we looked at when we discussed the frontier. Settlers are not the only people going west. Railroads are going west. Telegraph wires are going west. And therefore, we are connecting our country to be one. Number 2, the growth of capitalism and a growing number of capitalistic entrepreneurs. Capitalism we will discuss later on in the slides as well. But essentially, it's that growth of a free market enterprise and a growing number of business people who are essentially starting their own business. An entrepreneur is someone that begins their own business, whether it be opening up a Five Guys franchise, whether it be starting their own automotive business, whether it be opening their own beauty salon. An entrepreneur is someone who starts their own business. And this is definitely an excellent vocab word to know. Entrepreneur, someone who begins their own business. And again, for example, opening up your own beauty salon, your own automotive repair shop, or your own Five Guys franchise. Third, new inventions in technology. New inventions were key. Essentially, we have people such as Eli Whitney who start to come along and understand that new inventions are essential to a growing America. Thomas Edison understands the idea that electricity is essential to a growing, powerful nation. And these new inventions shape and form our nation in ways that will impact decades long after. This sense of technology and technological innovation impact our nation for years to come. People such as Henry Ford developing and synchronizing the assembly line are key to how our nation grows in the years to come. Number 4, new advertising and marketing techniques. For the first time, we see all people truly advertised and marketed, whether they be male, female, or children. Our marketing and advertising techniques are essential to ensure that consumers are coming into our shops and ensure that consumers are buying our Model T cars. This new advertising and marketing is so essential that entrepreneurs utilize this advertising and marketing techniques to draw consumers in. Number 5, plentiful natural resources. So our country at this time had many natural resources which were abound, whether they be things such as oil, steel, lumber, and etc. We had plenty of natural resources available at our disposal to ensure that our nation could grow and that we could industrialize. Number 6, plentiful labor. We had quite a few new immigrants to our nation who were looking for jobs at this time. So labor was cheap and plentiful. And if it wasn't cheap, we could always find someone who would do the same job for a lower price. Number 7, government support. Yesterday we talked about laissez-faire and how laissez-faire works. Essentially, laissez-faire, we said, means that the government should be hands-off. The one caveat or exception to laissez-faire is that government should support businesses. That's all. Governments should push folks to purchase items from businesses. Government should not interfere, but help to promote business. Let's take a look at the next slide. Improved transportation and communication. So as we chatted about in the last slide, by the 1890s, the U.S. had the most extensive railroad network in the world. Railroads linked together cities in every state. By 1900, there were 193,000 miles of track in the United States. Freight trains carried items like iron, coal, and minerals to cities, where they were supplied for the raw materials for industrial use. This would be an excellent bullet to get into your notes. Railroad linkage with the telegraph and later the telephone allowed it to standardize its operation, arrival, and departure times. Trains also started to carry food to growing urban labor forces and finished products from industries to all parts of the nation. This railroad expansion promoted the growth of heavy industry, such as steel, because the railroads were the largest purchaser of steel in the nation. And again, this is another bullet to definitely get down. For railroads to succeed, they needed their steel for their tracks. And for the steel industry to succeed, they needed the railroads to continue building more tracks, connecting more cities throughout our nation. Let's take a look at the next slide. As you can see here, we have many railroads linking many cities together. Let's take a look at the eastern seaboard. From Maine to Florida, we see quite a number of railroads connecting our nation. If we look north and south, we see quite a number of railroads connecting throughout the northern part of our nation. The number of railroads in the south were not as many. And we have to remember that at this time, there was one true transcontinental railroad, one that ran from California all the way to New York City. And this transcontinental railroad shaped and formed how our nation shipped its goods. Without these railroads, our nation could not ship goods such as iron ore, steel, minerals, food products, finished products as well, such as, again, clothing and material. So it was essential that these railroads connect all parts of our nation together. And as you look at the Great Northwest, seen here, we see that many railroads don't extend out to places such as Oregon and Washington. However, it is essential that they do connect to California and reach a central hub. For example, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this way, those goods can be carried back into the eastern portion of our nation once it crosses the Mississippi River. From there, these railroads can head to all points east. Take a look at Texas. Texas is a great example of how the railroads were used. You see key pieces in Texas, such as about the Houston area or so here, and about the Austin area or so here. These places within Texas were essential because as you look at many of these railroads, not only are they going east to west, but they're going north and south. From Texas, it was essential to send those longhorn steer or cattle to places such as Chicago. Because once they reached Chicago, seen where the pen is, the cattle would be butchered and slaughtered and sent for sale. So it was essential to cattle ranchers in places like Texas, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, the Dakotas, to essentially get their cattle to Chicago so that their cattle could be slaughtered and crated out for sale. Let's take a look at the next slide. And we'll talk about Cornelius Vanderbilt as well, and we'll take a look at some episodes quickly as well. But let's take a look at Mr. Vanderbilt real fast. All right, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Definitely someone that we want to know. So I'm going to draw a nice little box here around Mr. Vanderbilt. And Mr. Vanderbilt was nicknamed the Commodore. And Vanderbilt was essentially a railroad baron. And what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at that. Okay? Vanderbilt said, quote, "You have undertaken to cheat me. I won't sue you, for the law is too slow. I'll ruin you." End quote. Well, let's take a look how the Commodore might do that. How the Commodore might ruin you is through that simple sense of capitalism. And again, for our definition for capitalism, it is an economic and social system in the means of production. Capital, which is privately owned. Under capitalism, labor, goods, and capital are traded and the profits are distributed to the owners and or investors. So this is a key term, and I'm just going to leave it as is for you guys to get down. Capitalism is an economic and social system in the means of production. Capital is privately owned, and under capitalism, labor, goods, and capital are traded, and the profits are distributed to owners and/or investors. So the growth of capitalism and the growth of industry go hand in hand. As industry grows, so does capitalism, because profits are going up. These entrepreneurs or these independent business owners are making more money and therefore distributing those profits to the owners, which may be themselves, such as Cornelius Vanderbilt, or they may distribute those profits to investors if they have a publicly traded company. Let's take a look. In this political cartoon, you see the pyramid of capitalism, as seen here. I'm drawing a little arrow at the bottom for you folks to see that. And let's take a look at that pyramid of capitalism. We see at the bottom who? Who are these people? What are they doing? What do they look like? What are they trying to do? What type of people are there? What age? What are they doing? What are they holding? What are they bracing? And who are they doing this for? So let's take a look at the second level, seen here. And again, our first level is noted here. So our second level, similar questions. What type of people do we see here? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? And what does the caption here represent? Now, let's take a look at the third level. Who do we see at the third level? And what does this caption imply? Why are they at this third level? Are they in the right spot in your opinion? We'll chat about these in class today or tomorrow. Let's take a look at the fourth level. And here's the caption here. What type of people are seen here? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And how can we see how this caption may discuss this level? Now, let's take a look at the fifth level. The fifth level, again, similarly, how are these people represented? What do they look like? What are they doing? Why might they be doing it? And who's supporting them? How does each level get smaller and smaller, and why? Let's take a look at the very top level. Here's our caption. What do we see sitting atop this pyramid? What does this bag represent? And how can we tell? Now let's go back to the very bottom level. We talked about this caption here, but what about this caption here? Is this right? That these people and these people support all of these people. And yet, do these people ever see this? We'll chat about this today or tomorrow in class. So for now, this is Mr. Roddy signing out, and I hope you enjoyed this movie. Thanks. See you in class.